Hi again. This is the second video in a series on JavaScript and creating a shopping cart. So, I've got a simple example here, and I've got, a web page here that kind of mocks up a store. And if you click on one of these products, it opens in a kind of a thing in front of the window. And there's a video tutorial on getting this part working. Right now, what we're working on is a shopping cart. So at this point, I've created a link here. And when you click on that link, what's happening is we're calling this function right here, okay? And at this point, we're just logging a message to the console. But what I want to do is I want to get the data for the item. So each of my items has a name and a price. And then I want to add that item to the shopping cart, okay? So let's go look up. So here, you can see I have a class name, add to cart. So this link has a class name, and when you click the link, it's, anything with the class add to cart, we're going to be doing the code here. So let's take a look at that link again. Okay, so I have one of these on each of the products, but here it is in my page right there. So it says, href, and then it's got the class name, add to cart. I'm going to actually put these attributes each on their own line. So we can read them. So right now, you can see I've got the href, I've got the class name, add to cart, and then there's also two other attributes, data name and data price, okay? So these attributes, it's kind of a way of, using these. You can create your own custom ones, and it's kind of a way of adding variables or values with a tag, okay? So here I have a tag, and I'm adding these attribute names, and I can put any value I like here, and you can even edit the value or change the value and update it with JavaScript, okay? So, by doing this, what I'm doing is I'm kind of, storing some data with each one of these links. So this way, like anytime you click an add to cart link, each add to cart link can have a different name and a different price for the product that it's tied to, okay? And all the links are the same. Here's the other link is up here. Actually, you know what? It's down here. Yeah, here's like another one, right? You can see data name and data price again, right? And then here's a third one, right? I just copied and pasted these and then just changed the value, okay? So anyway, so there we got it. So how do we get those attribute names? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go back down to my JavaScript, find the add to cart click function here, and what I want to get is I want to get the name. So I like to do this. I like to make like kind of an intermediate variable and store everything. It's just kind of very clear what's going on. So I'll say var name equals, and I'll use the jQuery selector again, and I'll say this. Okay, so this means the current object, and in our case it will be the add to cart link that you clicked or tapped on, okay? And then I'll follow it with attr. So this is short for attribute. And what this is saying is, hey, give me the attribute, and then I can type an attribute name in here. So the name attribute for me is data name. So when I use this line here, if you tapped on this particular link right here, data name is an attribute, and it would give me SHO boost as the name, okay? So that's what I would, this would give me that value, okay? And if I wanted to get the price, I could say, price equals this dot attribute data price, okay? So there we go. So now we got our stuff. And, you could console log that if you wanted. If it wasn't working or you're having some problem, you could say name and price there, and see what it looked like in the console. Let's give it a try just for fun. So I'm using Safari here, which is actually rather annoying. Next time I'm going to use Chrome. But anyway, so I've got this thing here, and then I'll inspect it. And here I am in the console here. And the console in Safari, like you can't make the text any larger, but which is kind of annoying. I should have used Chrome. But anyway, so here I am, and if I click on my product and I click add to cart, you can see it says SHO boost, $1 million or whatever that says, right? And if I click on this one, I do add to cart, it says ugly face, $200,560, right? So there we go, success, okay? So now we need to do a couple more things. So if you recall, we in the last video, I made a cart.js. So here's cart.js right here, I'm looking at it, and it has a function called add item. And when you add an item, you include the name, the price, and the count. The count is like how many of that item you want to add to your cart, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to call on that method or that function from here. So I'm going to just put a comment in front of this console log message because we don't need that anymore. And then I'm going to type in add item, okay? Because that's the function that I want to call on. And add item requires a name, a price, and a count. So in my case, my name, we'd put a string in here, right? But we've actually put the name in this variable, so we're going to put the variable in place of that string. And the same thing goes for price. Normally you type a number in there, but we'll put the price right here, right? We'll take this price variable that has the price from the attribute and put it here, right? And then we want to, when you click that add to cart button, we want to add one item to the cart, okay? So now this one, we want to test this, right? So it's a little harder to test. In JavaScript, all the functions and variables are global. So we could actually do more work. And like I said, this is kind of a simplified version, but we could do more work to hide those. But actually, since they are global, it makes it actually easy for us to test the cart array. So what I think an easy test here to see if we added an item to the cart would be to console log the cart array, right? So why don't we just console log cart right there, and then we can see what it is. So if we add an item to it and then we look at it, we should see that item in the cart, right? And then when we add another one, we can look at it again and it will show up, right? So let's save that. And maybe I will open this with Chrome here because Chrome, like the console, is so much better. Let me open up Chrome there. And then open up my project in Chrome. And then it's loading up any moment now. There it is, right? Okay, so here we are. And then let me get the console. Yeah, so here's our console here. Let me move this over a little bit like that, right? Maybe I'll move this thing to the bottom of the page. There, maybe that's better. Okay, so so now let's click on a product and click add to cart, and then you can see now I've got an array and it has one object in it. Huh? Let's click on another one. Oh, now I've got two objects, right? And if I open up the object here, you can see the first object, it says count is 1, name is SHO Boost, price is, $100,001, right? Why do I choose those numbers? And if I open up the second object here, it says count is 1 and name is Ugly Face, right? So that was this one, okay? Ugly with 2 G's. I got to check my spelling, okay? Anyway, so there you go. So now we still have a problem because, when I click cart, this is not the correct cart. We want the cart to reflect what we're showing here, right? So it should have two objects in it, okay? So that's our next problem to tackle, okay? So again, there's a few ways we can handle that. I'm going to put a comment here. I'm going to go back to index.html and find my function that I was working in, and I'll put a comment here to, comment out this console message. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a function below here. So I'll say function, and I'll say, how about show cart? Or no, let's call it update cart. How about that? That's a pretty good name. Okay. And what this is going to do is it's going to look through the cart and display all the items. Okay. So it'll have to write some HTML into our page to do that. So let's review really quick. So my cart right here, when we click on the button or the link in the upper left and it displays the cart in the middle of the page, what it's doing is it's showing this div. Okay, so it's using CSS to display this div in the middle of the page. And the actual cart items are these list items here. So each item that's in your cart should be listed here. Like if you had an apple in your cart, maybe I'd want it to say, apple price, 99 cents, quantity, 1 or something, right? Okay, so we'll use that as our model, okay? So maybe I'll cut that, right? And what I want to do is I don't want to display these guys. Like if there's nothing in the cart, then I shouldn't have anything there. So let's take those out. And I'll just put a comment in here and we'll say, cart displays here or something, okay? So we have a UL now. So every cart item will be an LI. And you could do this as a div or some other system. I used a UL here, okay? I'm going to give this UL an ID name so we can find it, okay? So we'll call it, how about cart UL, okay? So ID cart UL. So now when we go down here into update cart, we can, add things to cart UL, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable called HTML, and it will be an empty string, okay? And then we're going to use a for loop again. And so we'll do the same thing that we did in the add item function, and we'll say var I in cart. Okay, we're gonna make this a little better later, but like I said, this is a little naive, but it'll work, right? So we're gonna say for var I in cart. So we're gonna loop through all the items in the cart array. Okay. And for each item in the cart array, let's get the name. So we can say cart bracket I dot name, and then we'll say var price. So we'll get the price of the item. So we'll say cart bracket I dot price, and then we need to get the count, right? So I'll say count equals cart bracket I dot count. Okay, so now we got the name, the price, the count. And now what I want to do is I want to make some HTML. So if you recall, our cart item should look something like this. Okay. Right, so it should have an LI tag followed by the name, which is this guy, followed by the price, right here, which is going to be this, and the count, which is going to be this, right? And then we have to close it off with a closing LI tag, okay? Let's put that in a comment. Okay, so how are we going to make this? What we're going to do is we're going to say HTML, and then I'm going to use the plus equals. And what this is going to do is it's going to append a string to the end of this string. So instead of replacing the string with a new value, it's just going to add more, text to the end of the value that's already there. And it's starting off with nothing, but we'll take the first, the first string, which hopefully will look something like this, and add it to the end, and then we'll take another one and add it to the end once for each product, right? Okay, so that's why we need the plus equal. If we use the equal only, then we'd be replacing everything here, right? So, so we're going to use plus equal, and then what I need here is I need a list item plus the name plus, maybe I need a space, right? And then maybe I'll put the $sign. I won't print price. I'll actually change this to look like that. How about that, right? So I'll just use the $sign. So I'm here. And then now I want to put the price in there, so I'll use the plus sign again. So I can combine this variable with the string, or concatenate, right, is what they call it. And I'll do plus. And then maybe I won't say quantity here. Maybe I'll just do like an X. So I'll say 99 cents times the quantity, right? So I'll put the X there. And then I wanted a space here, so that's my space, right? and then I'll do plus count. Okay, so then there's the count, and then now I need to add this li tag on the end. So I'll do plus the quotes, and then I'll do li like this, right? And so that should make, something like what we have here, where the name comes from the cart and the price comes from the cart and the quantity comes from the cart. Okay, and then we're going to do this once for every item in the cart. So this is our loop. It begins here and it ends at this curly brace, and the function ends at this curly brace. So after the end of the loop, but before the end of the function, we need to print the HTML here into our page. So what we're going to do is we're going to select something with jQuery, right? We'll use a jQuery selector. And if you remember just a second ago, we made cart UL. We gave this ID name to the UL that contains these list items, or that wants to contain them, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say cart UL.html. And then in here we can print any string we want into this UL. So what we'll do is we'll print the HTML variable that we created here that has all of these, all this stuff in it, right? Okay, so there we go. That's pretty good. Let's save that. And now we're going to have to do one thing. This function doesn't do anything if it's just sitting here. We actually have to call on it. So maybe every time you click the Add to Cart button, after you add your item to the cart, the next thing you should do is update the shopping cart. So you've added an item to the cart, and now we need to update the cart so it's displayed on our page. Okay, so we'll save that, and then we'll test it out, right? So it still needs a little bit of work, but let's give it a try. So I'll refresh my page. Actually, let's go look at our shopping cart first. So I open it up here, and you can see shopping cart is empty. And then I click on a product and click Add to Cart. And then I show my shopping cart, and you can see now it has one of these items in it. Let's click on this item and add it. And then I'll click on this first one. And this first one, when I click on it, I'll click the Add to Cart button a couple times. I clicked it 3 times, right? So if our shopping cart code is working good, then it should, instead of adding 3 entries, it should just set the count to 3, and it looks like it's working. Hey, there we go, right? So that's pretty good. So, so you can try that on your own, and then see if you can get that working. And now your goal is to, here's a couple problems to solve, right? What you want to do is, after the count, maybe right over here somewhere, okay? So imagine like the output, instead of saying, 99 cents times 1, what we want to say, if this was like, 90 or 3, let's call it 2, right? Then we put the total maybe is 198. Okay? So the total here is going to be the count times the price. Okay? So there's your first problem. So show the total. Okay? The second problem is show the total number of items in the cart at the bottom. So at the end of the cart, after you've added all these things to the cart, right? After that, you want to include the total for the cart. So you're going to have to do that after the loop. Okay? And if you're inside the loop here, you might want to say, let's call it total count, right? So you'll want to put this variable outside of the loop, and inside the loop, you might want to say, total count plus equals the count. So now, when we get to here, total count will be, after the loop is over, end loop, right? Okay, after the loop, the total count in the cart will be the number of items in the cart totally. So if you had 2 apples and 1 banana, then the total cart or total count would be 3, okay? So you can use the same method to get the total price, right? Set this equal to 0, and then maybe over here you want to say, total price plus equals, and now the price of each item in the cart is really going to be, the price times the count, right? So this is really going to be price times count. Now, I'm giving you some of the clues here, but there's really a couple problems to solve because one, when I get the attributes here, this is a string. Okay, so that's kind of a problem because it's difficult for us to do math with the string. Okay, so really we should make sure that we convert price to a number, and you can either do that here or you can do it in the add item to cart. Okay, you could also do it over here. You could convert this to a number, right? Over here, and you could do the same thing with count if you wanted, right? Just to make sure but I think it's kind of better to make sure the number in the cart is correct. Okay, so there's a lot of JavaScript has a lot of weird stuff with numbers, but in order to convert something to a number, you could do this. You could say number parentheses, and then I'll have to put another parentheses around here, right, to make sure this is inside. Does that make sense? So you can take this value and then convert it to a number, and then really to really make this robust, we might want to check this to make sure that it's a valid number, right? You may run into some rounding problems too. I'm going to talk about those later, and you can try and solve them on your own. But JavaScript gets a little weird with the numbers, right? Especially if you want to do currency values, right? Because they're always rounded off to 2 decimal places. But anyway, so do a little research on the internet, try it out on your own, see if you can solve them. But there's a couple ideas for you, and thanks for watching.